June 1940. The Italian Empire looked south across the Mediterranean and saw a desert it believed would be easy to conquer. To Benito Mussolini, Egypt was not a battlefield. It was a prize already won. Italy had conquered Ethiopia 4 years earlier. Libyan colonies had been pacified at terrible cost. Now, with France collapsing and Britain reeling on the beaches of Dunkirk, Mussolini decided that history was offering him his moment. He told his generals, "We need only a few thousand dead to claim our seat at the peace table." From Rome's marble balconies, the war looked like opportunity. From the desert's horizon, it looked like death. Marshal Rodolfo Graziani, commanding the Italian 10th Army, assembled 250,000 men along the Libyan-Egyptian frontier. Opposite them, General Archibald Wavell held barely 36,000 British and Commonwealth troops, stretched thin between Alexandria and the frontier post of Mersa Matruh. Mussolini demanded a swift advance. His staff demanded fuel, trucks, and maps that actually showed water sources. They got promises instead. On the 13th of September 1940, Graziani's columns finally moved east, 2,000 vehicles crawling into the Sinai dust. Within days, overheating engines and broken supply trucks clogged the single coastal road. The Italians reached Sidi Barrani, 60 miles inside Egypt, built fortified camps, and stopped. They had advanced barely a week's march, yet their logistics were already exhausted. The desert became their enemy. Compass needles spun uselessly near iron deposits, tires shredded on rock, soldiers collapsed from heat stroke. Even Mussolini's propaganda reels could not hide the stillness that followed. For 3 months, the front did not move. Before dawn on the 9th of December 1940, Wavell struck. He called it a 5-day raid. History remembers it as Operation Compass. In darkness, British Matilda tanks rolled silently through the gaps between Italian camps. At daybreak, the desert exploded. Within 48 hours, the 10th Army was in full retreat. By February 1941, British and Commonwealth forces had advanced 500 miles, capturing 130,000 prisoners, 400 tanks, and 800 guns. At Beda Fom, an armored column cut off the Italians' last escape route. It was one of the most lopsided victories in modern military history. Rome's army had dissolved in the sand, but London's triumph brought a new problem. Success had stretched its own supply lines to breaking, and half the British force was about to be withdrawn to Greece. Into that vacuum stepped a new commander from Germany, Erwin Rommel. In February 1941, the first elements of the Deutsches Afrika Korps disembarked at Tripoli. Their mission: stabilize the front, restore Axis prestige, and hold Libya. Rommel had other ideas. Within days of arriving, he launched a counter-offensive. British patrols vanished in sandstorms. Armored spearheads appeared where scouts swore none existed. By April, the Germans had retaken Cyrenaica and surrounded Tobruk. Berlin celebrated a miracle. London faced humiliation. But Rommel's victories rode on the thinnest thread imaginable. A supply line stretching from Naples across the Mediterranean to Tripoli, then over 1,000 miles of desert track. Each panzer that reached the front consumed 10 trucks worth of fuel to get there. Half the cargoes sent from Italy never arrived. British submarines and aircraft based on Malta sank one convoy after another. By late 1941, the Afrika Korps could attack only when fuel dumps were full. And those dumps were shrinking. Through 1941 and early 1942, the Desert War became a seesaw of advance and retreat. Brevity, battle axe, crusader, Gazala. Each side won, lost, and won again. When Rommel finally drove the British back after Gazala in June 1942, he seemed unstoppable. Tobruk fell in a single day, a humiliation that stunned Britain. Rommel pressed east, through Mersa Matruh toward the Nile Delta, but the chase was burning his army alive. Every 50 miles cost a battalion in broken vehicles. He reached the edge of Egypt with barely enough fuel to fight a single major battle. The ground ahead narrowed between the Qattara Depression and the sea, a bottleneck only 40 miles wide. There, at El Alamein, the British dug in. Rommel struck first in July 1942. For 12 days, the line bent but held. Both sides collapsed from exhaustion. The First Battle of El Alamein ended in stalemate, but it stopped the Axis advance short of the Nile. August 1942 brought a new face to the desert. Lieutenant General Bernard Law Montgomery. Where Rommel trusted improvisation, Montgomery trusted preparation. He rebuilt the 8th Army from the ground up, new Shermans and Grants, fresh Australian, New Zealand, South African, Indian, and British divisions. And above all, time. For 2 months, supplies flowed east by night. Fuel dumps filled, gun lines multiplied, deception plans drew Rommel's eye elsewhere. At 21:40 hours, 23rd October 1942, 1,000 guns fired together. Witnesses said the night turned white. Across 6 miles of mines, infantry inched forward behind rolling barrages. Rommel was in Germany on sick leave. His deputy tried to hold the line. When Rommel returned, he found an army bleeding to death. By the 2nd of November, Montgomery unleashed Operation Supercharge, hundreds of tanks punching through at Tel El Akakir. Axis lines cracked. Rommel radioed Hitler for permission to retreat. The answer: stand fast or be shot. Rommel chose survival. On the 4th of November, the Afrika Korps began its long, hopeless retreat across Libya. El Alamein was decisive not because it destroyed Rommel's army, but because it proved the Axis could no longer hold Africa. The myth of the desert fox ended in smoke and dust. Churchill told Parliament, "Before Alamein, we never had a victory. After Alamein, we never had a defeat. Within 6 months, Anglo-American forces landed in Morocco and Algeria. Operation Torch. The Axis were trapped between 2 Allied armies. By May 1943, 250,000 men surrendered in Tunisia. Italy's African empire ceased to exist. El Alamein was more than a battle. It was a lesson in the arithmetic of modern war. Courage without fuel is despair. Strategy without logistics is fantasy. And pride in the desert is just another mirage. Today the wind still moves over those dunes, whispering through wrecks half buried in sand. For the men who fought there, the desert was unforgiving. But it was also honest. It took everything false and burned it away. Italy thought Egypt would be easy. At El Alamein, history proved otherwise.